So what I don't know about transfer deadline days isn't worth knowing. I said we should definitely do a second talk in Reds at 5 o'clock because something will have happened.
Big news as well.
That was genuine. That was my position. We should do something at 5 o'clock because something will have happened. And bang on five. It does not get bigger than, honestly, Gareth Roberts in the comments. Hiya, Robbo. Glad Kev got the move he's been after. Go ahead, big Nat. It's the one you've been waiting for, Kev. It is the Nat Phillips move from the mighty boys in red.
See, it's just like a new signing, isn't it? I think we can all be very clear on that. He's just like a new signing. Given obviously big Jordan Henderson's new contract getting announced today as well, another new signing, just strengthening the squad left, right, and centre.
Who do you think we're going to get announced with the contract next? Because that's what I want to know. Have they got like a 10 o'clock plan? Do you reckon?
We're probably down to them two birds in the canteen, aren't we? What have they got? Kathy and Kathleen or something like that?
I would just want to know what they're going to do at 10 o'clock. I absolutely can't wait to find out what they're going to do at 10 o'clock in order to push all the way through. It's Neil Atkinson, it's Kev Walsh, it's Talking Red. You can get your comments on YouTube. I think we might be on Twitter and stuff like that as well. I'm never quite up on the technology these days, but I do my very best. The thing with Nat is I'm just not quite sure where he plays. So if everyone if everyone stays fit thing becomes when everyone goes out for fuck's sake. But like if everyone stays fit, does he even get the League Cup game against Norwich? In that you want Konate and Gomez to presumably get some time on the pitch. I think the one thing it does is it says for certain is that Fabinho won't be at centre half at any stage this season. Well,
that's a definite bonus to it. It feels a bit more like, listen, I think that Phillips he's done well when called upon, but he's not necessarily going to be the future at centre half. Liverpool feels a bit more like maybe a protection of value than it is a long-term sign to keep the squad going. But I agree with you because Gomez no minutes this season, Konate no minutes this season. They've got to have that game surely to get some minutes into the legs.
I think he'll do. I think he'll move. I think genuinely to have a centre half chat. I think he'll rotate a bit more than he normally does, and the reason why is because he knows Matip prone to an injury, Gomez prone to an injury. The big fella, whilst he isn't prone to an injury, do you want to launch him back into playing game in quite that way that we have in the past? So I think there will be a bit of rotation there for them. So there is the possibility, I suppose, that he might begin to move them around once you've got those Champions League games and that League Cup game, and then maybe you could actually get to see Phillips.
I don't see it, to be honest. I don't see Phillips unless injury. But to be fair, I've often said that you can't really count Matip as, you can't say you've got 4 centre-halves if you've got Matip in there. He's a cracking player, absolutely brilliant, but he's not fit for long enough. So it's maybe sort of, we've got half a Matip and half Nat Phillips in case the worst comes to the worst, which makes sense. And listen, I'd rather see him there and have him as a 5th choice than no 5th choice. I'm
pleased to talk that it's improved terms, just simply off the basis that he was important at the end of the season towards his qualifying back for the Champions League. I think Reece Williams might go on to have a longer term thing with Liverpool. It looks like he's going to Swansea on loan. But if nothing else, he deserves to at least get improved terms off the basis of the fact that part of his efforts got the club Champions League football, and I suspect the Nat Phillips Champions League qualification bonus isn't a massive one in his contract, or wasn't last time out.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thought so. And he's done what was asked of him when he come in, and probably, to be fair, even more. When he first come in, I thought we were on the bones of our arse, weren't we? And you thought we're going to struggle here, and he did struggle in certain games. But he got there, and listen, as you say, it's nice sometimes to have the human touch of, this is a little bit of a reward for the player.
I think he would. I think he wakes up this morning thinking he's not going to be playing for Liverpool tomorrow, and so I think there's also that as well in there where they've held off on it. I think the reason why it's today and it's being announced today isn't like some sort of clever PR tactic from Liverpool. I don't think Liverpool think that this is a PR tactic that's going to cut much mustard. I think it's from the point of view of the offer that they were hoping to get from him hasn't come in. They've decided it's not going to come in, so they put the contract in front of him in order to give him the improved terms.
Yeah, well, for that reason, and also for the reason that if he goes to January, he's only got 18 months left on a contract, so your value's dwindling by the day pretty much. So it makes sense for all parties involved. Nat Phillips will probably be thinking, well, you know what, I didn't expect to get any games last year, and look how many times I did play, and when I did play, I played well. So I'll sign the contract, and if it's another 2 years at Liverpool, and then I move on to another Premier League club, probably, or maybe higher Championship club, then Saul, he's give it absolutely everything he could have given at Liverpool. And when you consider 18 months ago he was playing in Germany in the 2nd division, now he gets to sign a new contract. It's a lovely story arc for the lad himself, and for Liverpool it's probably smart business. There's a lot to criticise Liverpool for in terms of the way this summer's gone. Personally, I feel, and a lot of people don't, but this is one of those ones where you go, well, yeah, it makes sense from a value point of view, if not necessarily the level of player. And to be honest, when it comes to the Phillips and Williams chat, for me, Phillips is twice the player Williams is, and I don't particularly see Williams ever being a Liverpool player.
Just on the window as a whole, Kev, for me all the way through, I've said one thing over and over, which is I wanted them to do, once Konate was in, 2 more between the age of 21 and 25. What worries me for Liverpool, more than anything else, and people love a list of worries at the minute supporting Liverpool. I'm not worried about this season in any sort of broad sense. I think that Liverpool are good to go. I'm enthused about this season, and I'm finding people, I think you can simultaneously not like the business and be really looking forward to Leeds away, to AC Milan at home, thinking Liverpool can win the league. You can not like the business and think Liverpool can win the league.
That is exactly where I am.
And I think that that's something which is getting lost in the noise. What's happening is people are doing their own heads into such an extent over the business that they're actually losing sight of the fact that this is a Liverpool side that right now, the squad right now is capable of competing. What concerns me is a little bit of what's down the line if you're not allowing for evolution, because the one thing I don't want to have to go through again supporting Liverpool is revolution. I want the idea that these good times, to an extent, you make it easier for them to continue to roll.
Well, that's exactly how you create dynasties. We've spoken loads of times on shows about having the best manager in the world, about having the best centre-half in the world, the best goalie, some of the best strikers. That's great, and I'm exactly the same as you. I think it's a yet another, in my opinion, missed opportunity this summer, but I'm still excited for this year, and I still think we can win the league, and I'm all in to go and win the league, and that's great. And if we win the league, I'll be as delighted as everybody else. But I think in 2 years' time, we'll be looking back and going, that was at least, if not the start, maybe even the second year where we missed an opportunity to plan for the succession, because we're creeping closer and closer to the point where Jurgen Klopp keeps telling us he's going to leave. And what are we going to do? When there's only 12 months left for Jurgen Klopp, and you're going to say, well, okay, we're going to start our revolution now. You're trying to sign players and they're saying, well, who's the next manager? And you say, well, we don't know. So it creates another barrier towards getting transfers done. And Liverpool have shown that there's a lot of barriers in the way already. We don't struggle to do transfers. Maybe we struggle to have the ambition to do them sometimes.
I think we're risk averse. And I'm alright with us being risk averse, because I think you can say, I genuinely think there's all the stuff about Edwards at the minute, and I think Edwards has presided over Liverpool being very risk averse since 2016. And look, it's worked. You're able to look at lots of aspects of it and say, you know, we won this, we won that. I think that there's an argument 18-19 is the greatest individual season in the club's history. Even though they don't win the league title there, you know, they get 97 points. The sporting level that's attained over the course of that 97 points, plus the Champions League in the way in which they do it, that's an astonishing achievement. I think they're being really, really risk averse, and I think that that's all right. But that's part of why I'd like to have seen them do another couple of lads between the age of 21 and 25 this year is, well, fuck it, I'm risk averse as well. Yeah. I'll be risk averse as the rest of you. My point is, the reason why you continually put one more in, you put another couple in, is what you're actually doing is you're mitigating the risk, and it gives these players time to become part of this team, rather than the idea that at some point you might need to do 5, with all the chaos that could ensue with that, and with greater room to get it wrong.
Well, that's the reason you do it slowly and over a period of time, because you feed these players in, and if they don't work, like a Minamino doesn't work, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. If you've got 1 or 2 in and you've put them in there, it doesn't work out, okay, we'll move them out, and the next summer we'll put another 1 or 2 in there. And with the hit rate we've got, that improves you steadily over time. And if you do that, you'll find the players that we've got stuck with now, they're already dropping off. There's a reason Liverpool haven't got rid of Origi. It's because other people don't value him as highly as we do. So we've got a price in our heads for him, and obviously no one's coming in for that price. But there's a reason we've got that price on him. If he was absolutely useless to us and we thought he was literally none of our business, we'd just let him go for whatever we were offered. But we're not doing that, because we're thinking, well, we're only 2 or 3 injuries away from him playing 10 games in the Premier League next year. And that's the problem, because if you don't do these things over time, slowly, you end up stuck in a situation like this where you've got a fantastic, unbelievable first 11, and then you're not falling to Everton levels when you're dropping down, but what you're doing is you're just creating a little barrier where what we should be doing is having players pushing the first 11, not just thinking, well, if I get in, I'll play 3 games and I'm clearly nowhere near as good as the rest.
Since they won the league, they brought in Minamino, Konate, Jota, Thiago, Shimikas, and you can have a bit of a chat around Elliott and Jones in terms of that they've grown. Moving out, Lallana, Lovren, Shaq and Gini Wijnaldum at this point. That is not bad at all, you know what I mean? I've named some decent names there. Hopefully the 2 younger lads do come strong. My point is, what I don't want to do is get another year down the line, 2 go next summer, and you're back chasing your own tail. And that's my slight concern, and that's why, as I say, I would have loved them, and you know, still, if something happened, I'd be delighted. And it is not, I'll say it again, it isn't because I'm sort of sitting there at the minute thinking, oh my God, it's going to be, you know, I think it'll be a tough game against Leeds, don't get me wrong, but there's no way we'll be able to beat Leeds with this squad. That's bullshit. I think we beat almost everyone in the division. I really am optimistic about this group of players. But I just think you'll end up at some sort of point. This in and of itself is a risky strategy. It's risk averse, but in and of itself, it is full of risk. And that is anything we do is full of risk, but this is full of risk. And focusing on the renewals, I get the argument for it, absolutely, and hopefully Salah will be the next one. I understand focusing on the renewals, but simultaneously there's a part of me going, lads, you just need to have another one or two we're able to look at and go, if all goes well in 2 years, he's good enough to be playing Champions League football every week. Yeah,
100%, but the tactic we've got at the moment feels to me, now listen, I might well be wrong, it's just an opinion, but it feels to me like a lot of people making decisions based on what's best for them in the very short term, and by that I mean 2 to 3 years, because maybe you're not going to have Michael Edwards looks like he's not even going to be in next year, but in 5 years time he's not going to be this, so this is not going to be his problem. Jurgen Klopp's probably not going to be there. I don't think Jurgen Klopp is part of the problem by any stretch of the imagination, by the way, but by the same token, the owners are probably, I think, it looks to be a perfect sales tactic, this. Tie down all your assets, which is a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but tie down all your assets, increase your cash reserves, which we must have done, because if you spend 40 million quid on a player, that's 40 million quid out of the cash reserves. The balance sheet looks good. For a sale, these are all indicators, I'd say.
I think they'll, you know what I think FSG sell when they sell FSG? So I think they'll see Liverpool. I think Liverpool becomes the jewel in their crown pretty quickly. I think I don't think they'll be selling Liverpool from their portfolio. I think they'll sell the whole thing at some point. I think they're more likely to do that. I think you see the Redbird thing. Redbird come in and they buy 10% of all the Fenway Sports Group. So I think if that is what they're thinking, it's because they're selling the whole of it, and everyone's getting out all at once, and everyone cashes out, and that's the plan. That's what I think they might be doing on that score. I think the thing I would say about Klopp and Edwards is I think they'd feel, like Klopp talked about Dortmund, this idea that you've got to leave a club in a much better state than you arrive at it in, and I think Edwards will be the same. I think they'll both feel that if the transition isn't smooth, and it may well be that it's the flip side of what you're saying, like Klopp's thinking to himself, well, I've just got Arnold there tied up till 2026, thank you very much. Yeah. We've turned Fabinho round, Alisson's in the bank. Do you know what I mean? Like, I do wonder whether or not Liverpool are almost thinking so far down the line. I don't know. You'd quite like there to be just a teeny bit of clarity around ultimately what is the succession plan, and that's a really hard thing for people to do, but you want to feel as though the succession planning is in place.
That's got to be in place, do you know what I mean? But that comes from the top down, not the bottom up. We need to know what the long-term objectives are. And listen, to be fair, FSG can say, well, we've never said we're going to sell. And they'd be well within the rights to say that. So maybe they are in it for the long term, but if they are, they're just, some of the moves we're making are just not the smart ones. We're making moves, and we've got such a good success rate with transfers. Why? Then again, I suppose the argument is, I'm going to say, why are we not doing transfers? And then they say, well, the reason we're not doing transfers is because we know exactly what we're doing and we get it right most of the time. Which, do you know what I mean? You can play this argument out ad infinitum.
Well, this is the point. The point is that almost everything sort of gets you coming and going, and that's why, for me, all of this conversation is very much a nuanced one. I don't like it when the nuance is taken out of it, to be honest with you, because I think it's. And also, I think one of the things that taking the nuance out of it is it actually strips the joy out of it a little bit. I think there's a lot of people who are, for instance, determined to. If you say every year for the next 20 years, Liverpool are getting it badly wrong and they're going to regret this, then at some point in the next 20 years, you'll be right. In that if you said that for any point in the last 20 years about Manchester United when they were at the peak, Chelsea when they were at the peak, Arsenal when they were at the peak, you'd have been right at some point to finally say, no, this is all going to go badly wrong. Like, there's an outline I always quote, all plots lead to death. If you wait long enough, in the long run, we are all dead. So you can say that, but my thing on this in general is, I don't want the nuanced conversation. As I say, I wanted to more, but I don't want that to bleed out. This is meant to be a fucking laugh. Yeah. And I think that this is that's what concerns me, is there's a lot of people who are talking themselves into a lot of misery, I find. I can't believe the online discourse really is. It's just a bit sad. There's people who are determined to tell you that they didn't enjoy 2019 because we didn't improve when we won 26 out of the first 27 games. It drives me mad, this sort of thing.
You're trying to solve society's ills there, mate, and
I'm always ambitious, Kev.
Just to take it off your shoulders.
I'm always ambitious.
That's not your responsibility. We're here to talk about the Reds. Listen, online, people, you can't have you can't have a nuanced conversation because you've got to have an opinion that's strong enough to sort of put it out there into the world. Then once you've put it out there, it's there for anyone to retweet and tell you about. So it is a lot more difficult. I think most people you speak to are broadly the same as me and you. Do you agree that some will be...
Well, people think me and you think massively differently. Yeah, which is interesting about this, because people are like, we get comments all the time saying, get a year 9 and Kev Walsh in to tell you what the real truth about FSG. And it's like, but me and there's a spectrum where we're sort of relatively sort of close together on it, which is where most people are. Where, you know, I've got in general a bit more sympathy for the ownership than you have around, because I think they've got a record now that you can point at to building a sports team. But on the whole, I'd like another fucking 2 players. You know, on the whole, I still think it was wrong on Minamino. On the whole, I do wonder exactly where the decision making is, because it might be that there could be someone from Fairway sort of watching this thinking, we did tell them they could spend 60 million and they don't want to. But we don't know that. But my point is that I'm fine with there being a spectrum. What I'm finding very, very difficult to sort of deal with is what I'm sort of calling crankery, which is where people are becoming so frenzied in their idea and divisive towards, in many senses it seems to me at times, the language is divisive towards match-going supporters in order to act as though people wanting to go to the match and having a good time, they're the ones who are in the fucking wrong.
But that, again, is... It's a totally different world. I suppose we have to cater for all. Like,
yeah, we do, rightly. And I've missed, and I know loads of match-going supporters have missed the idea of people coming in from overseas to come to a game. Because it's fucking great when you get to meet someone who's not been to Anfield before.
Yeah, it's boss. There's not like going to a match and I'm just ending up having like an hour with someone you've never met before. You know what I mean? You're big hugs and ordering bevies all over the place.
What an hour it is for that person who's got you there.
They'll have a wonderful time. But that's exactly what that's what it's supposed to be. And I think most of the cranks are probably people who don't get to do that. Do you know what I mean? And
but I love them too. We'd all love them too.
Listen, it'd be great if we had 100,000 seats stadium and everyone could get access, but we don't, and they can't. Yeah. So that's just tough, and you're never gonna fix that. But we can't. It's sort of like the balance thing that BBC get accused of. We've got one person saying this, so we've got to have the other person saying that. Well, if that's bollocks, you don't need to have that. And it's the same. It's exactly the same with this. Listen, FSG out is not. I'm not necessarily FSG out. I'm FSG better. Yeah. I'm happy for FSG to stay for as long as they want to stay, as long as they're improving the club, and as long as I want to say their intentions are honourable, which sounds a little bit like someone's marrying my daughter, but that's how I feel about it.
No, what am I on this summer is I wonder if, so I think they've got a lot of rules, and I think that part of why Liverpool have got good decision making is I think they've got certain rules that they've just decided these are the rules we play within. So a really good one is they were never buying Messi. They're never going to do that, and this is why. And I understand that, and I can understand those sorts of bits and pieces. So the manager, when he gets asked about it, he's like, well, that's nothing to do with us. But what that does, I always think in a sense, you know, being involved of running a pretty small business, but what having certain rules does is it means that you don't waste your time. Yeah. We don't even have the meeting about Messi because we all already know. We haven't got to worry about that. But I think that what I'd like to see maybe a bit different this summer is I actually think, you know, for instance, Camavinga's gone to Real Madrid and it's not that much money for a player of that talent. I've been talking about Tchouaméni for a couple of weeks, mostly whilst I had COVID as well, in a bit of a state. But I'm of the view, if you've got some rules around, you don't want to maybe go into a little bit of debt, you don't want to spend next year's money, etc., etc. This could have been a window when France is in bits, Spain's in bits. There's barely anyone in Spain spending any money apart from Real Madrid. Italy's in bits. You know, a few clubs in England aren't in great nick because of COVID, because of TV deals, because of all this stuff. Maybe this was a year, and this is one of my things about being flexible rather than, you know, obsessing with your rules. Maybe this was a year to maybe take a couple of chances, maybe do a little bit of, we'll buy this now and we'll worry about it later. And that's the thing where I do wonder, would like to see a little bit more maybe at times, is take a couple of chances, maybe just be a teeny bit less risk averse.
I've been saying that since the very start of COVID. I said COVID should have been seen as an opportunity to Liverpool Football Club, and obviously it is a threat, but we should have used it to our advantage because of all the reasons you've just given there. There was always going to be people in dire financial straits because of what's going on in the world. Liverpool Football Club were never going to be that. With the ownership we've got and the money that they've got and the money that the club is worth itself, there would have always been a way of financing maybe 2 years and then paying off over 5. I'm not saying, people say...
They did a bit of that last year. That's what I did with the Jota and Thiago. They do a bit of that last year. It works for them.
No, did they? I don't think they did. What they done last year with that was... Well, then maybe a bit with Jota. Thiago, they pay $5 million a season over, which is okay. I feel like we could have gone a little bit. That's what I've been asking for. Bit more balls out, acting like a big club is what I've been saying. And listen, United's owners are absolutely terrible, but you can never accuse them of not acting like a super club. They walk around with their chest puffed out and the feathers absolutely preened up to death, even when they're not. That isn't them. And I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination we follow their model, but sometimes I feel like Liverpool, with what you're saying, we're never going for Messi, that's fine, but we sometimes act like we're this sort of plucky underdog, and we're not.
Well, we are a super club, and you can see it in the wage bill. This window will end, and there'll be the top 6 wage bills in the world will be the 4 Premier League clubs, Paris Saint-Germain and Real Madrid, and there'll be a bit of a gulf then to sides like Bayern Munich and Juventus. Juventus have just cut, obviously by cutting Ronaldo. They're down there. Well, not down there. They're about sort of 8th or 9th or 10th. For me, it's like you can do things that are a little bit riskier without it being bringing in some jaded has-been on 450 grand a week because everyone's cried their eyes out. You can bring in, for instance, a 21-year-old prospect like Tchouaméni, someone like Jonathan David. You can bring in Marlon, who ended up going to Dortmund. You can bring in those footballers, and there's a little bit less risk attached because they're young prospects. So if it doesn't work for you, you'll be able to sell them. Ismail Assar's one I keep naming as someone I'd like. I think it's all quite interesting. We'll do some comments anyway and see where they are. Matthew Storrow, Boss News, but they could announce it any time. But I don't think they could. I think it has just happened today, to be fair, and they've announced it pretty quick.
He's right though. They could
have done it tomorrow.
Well, and the thing is, you can sign a contract at any point. There's no contract sign and transfer window, so I think that is something to worth bearing in mind. Christy
R says, right, forget Salah. We've renewed our 5th choice centre-back we plan to sell. I think Christy, to be honest with you, they probably are trying to renew Mo Salah's contract. No, that's it. They give all his dough to Nat Phillips. I can't believe that Nat Phillips has got the Mo Salah money. Someone's praising your tan, Kev. It's like the firm, nice one. You're a man who's outside a lot, aren't you? Well, if it's any way warm, I have to get my kids out the house because otherwise they kill each other. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing. The heat right up. Where are we? Some stuff on FIFA pressing the Premier League to send players to red zone national countries. I'll be honest with you, that's one for next week, mate. Let's see that one develop and then we'll go from there. Today, heads are falling off all over the place. What else have we got here sort of going through? There's a fair few of them. The fitness issue with Matt Best says I had and one could apply to a bunch of our midfield and it feels like there's not requisite cover there. I feel on this, we're a bit once bitten, twice shy around the injuries in midfield. There's 8 of them, and I just don't know. I actually worry that where they're all going to get games from. If Henderson and Thiago each get 27 and Fabinho gets 35, you're left in a situation, Kev, where there's only 60 to go around 5 of them. And I'd like to see Curtis Jones get time. I'd like to see Harvey Elliott get time. I like watching James Milner play for Liverpool. He's always useful. And then there's Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain. That's 60 games between those 5 players if the others just do what I've said. I'm not worried about numbers in midfield. I think we're stocked. It's quality. I would have liked a little injection. I don't think you can have too many good like really good quality central midfield players, and it's another one of those things where you go, well, why have we still got these players who are a bit part, and you're probably looking at Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain there. If you'd have added last summer a 21-year-old and said, okay, well listen, you're not going to play 35 games this year, but get over it, you're playing for Liverpool now. Yeah, and look how many games you actually would have got. He probably would have got well more than that. If this fictitious midfielder. But then if you've added him then, and his level's stepping up, now you're going to Oxlade-Chamberlain. Listen, I'm on record saying I love Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's a cracking player, but unfortunately it's just not working now. And players like that and like Naby Keita, if you've been adding and stepping your quality up over time, this has been a summer where they've gone. So midfield, numbers-wise, not worried at all. Can it be improved upon? 100%, yeah, it can. Okay, next one is, what else have we got? You can't afford to stand still in this game. I think that is the thing that we want. It's very much about the long term, as X86 guy says. That is the thing that we are saying in general. I think we have got the squad depth for the Champions League. There's one thing that's might happen today that will piss me off, and that's if Saul goes to Chelsea. And the reason why is because I actually think they're a little understocked in midfield, and I'm not quite sure what they'd do if Jorginho got an injury. And I'm not convinced they're entirely well stocked at centre half either for a side that plays 3 of them. In general, that's the only thing any of our rivals can do that can make me go off. Fucking hell, could have done without that. But this is my sort of thing when people say we haven't got the squad depth for the Champions League. There's loads of mad players who end up popping up in Champions League games, and Man United are still playing lads in centre mid who aren't as good as you. That could be a large number for Man United. I'm not worried about the Champions League. The group we've got it's a proper football group. I'm made up with the group. It's games you're going to want to go to, and you don't see many of them being really dead rubbers. But by the same token,
we're strong, we're a lot stronger than them rivals there. It's up front where we could be, we're one injury away from thinking, we've absolutely shit the bed here. We could be in real danger. But again, you can't necessarily live your life thinking like that. But the addition of another attacker, and maybe someone to push Sadio Mane to up his levels a little bit would have really gone down well this summer.
Bob Razangi has come to the conclusion his owners overall are happy with top four. One of my things on that is, I think if Liverpool are guaranteed top four every single year, then they'll be challenging at the top of the table, because that's now the way in which it works if you're going to get towards top four. I don't think there's much room for manoeuvre between being a guaranteed top four team. I expect us to finish at United this season. I'd be surprised if we don't. Genuinely, I really would be, unless we get into a situation where we're in the last eight or four of the Champions League and we're deciding to do a bit of resting around that sort of stuff. I don't think that's necessarily a problem in and of itself right now. I think, again, this is back to everything's about the long term.
100%, yeah. There cannot be any argument with that. I sort of agree with the comment, though, that the owners, they see winning the league as a bonus rather than not than a target. I think don't get me wrong, obviously they want to win the league, but I don't think they're like balls to the wall. This is our absolute aim, and here's how we're going to do it.
But I don't think they're gonna. I don't think I'd want them to put all the chips on one season, and that's my thing here. I think, but this is where we keep going, where you go back round in circles, because this is why I'd like them to plan for the long term. Yeah. So I'm genuinely happy if Liverpool are in a situation where every single year we're looking at it going, looking at the squads, we can break 80 points and get to the last 8 of the Champions League, and then from there we need a manager and a group of players who can sort out the next phase. I.e., if you need 95 points to win the league, they'll get you the extra 15. If you're going to kick on and win a Champions League last 8, you go from there. I think that's a reasonable sort of thing to expect, in that, City, the year we win the league, they get 81. And they look a show. Yeah. For a lot of it. It will happen sometimes. For me, the minimum requirement is 80 points. And what that means is your ceiling can be 98. And that's great. But I think your minimum requirement is 80 points. I look at the squad, I think it's 80 points. It's got to always be 80 points, because we're Liverpool and that's where we want to be. Yeah,
100%. And again, that's more of an argument for remaining a challenger than actually going out and getting it. And we want the longer term success, but it's all homogenous things, you know what I mean? One feeds into the other, and it's all about ambition. And listen, the owners are never going to think the same way I do. That is what it is. What are you going to do about that? There's nothing you can do. But they, very professional, this, Neil. This will be FSG. This telling them what to say next year. Yeah. Sorry, John. I'll ring you back.
Or my partner.
No, but going for the league title, we're one or two players shy of thinking we're going to win the league, whereas now you just think we have got as good a chance as anybody else, and it's just a little bit frustrating that you look at the money other teams are spending, and not necessarily Chelsea's and Man United's and Real Madrid's. You're looking at like West Ham's and Bournemouth's and the likes of them, they're outspending us at the moment, and that's one of the frustrating things with this.
Okay, just lots of people chatting about that, quite liking him, saying keeping 5 centre-halves is nice enough within there. Billy says this is the deepest team Klopp has had, and that's with him liking a small squad. That is true. I think it is indeed. I think that's spot on. And they are looking to do that. I think he is a little bit strange, Klopp, in terms of that, and I think he is a thing in amongst this, it is fair to say as well. I wasn't looking for a 26-year-old striker to push for a place, David. I think that's a really difficult one for us. And then going from there, I wouldn't have gone near Saul in the grand scheme at first. I thought he's perfect, and then I went on and thought I wouldn't have had him myself, to be honest with you. Kevin Ball there, presumably not that one, reckons that is the nature of it. Where I'll be indeed. Group 6 has had enough in caps. AFCON is not a thing. Don't worry about it. You know the AFCON thing. This is a Mr. Phil shout.
Go on, mate. Fill me in with Mr. Phil's knowledge.
So Mr. Phil's argument here is, we play 2 league games during the African Cup of Nations. One of them is against Brentford, the other one's against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace have got at least 4 Mr. Phil things who will go to the African Cup of Nations, including their best players, Aha. Wow. So don't be worried about the African Cup of Nations, honestly. We'll sort that out as and when we get there.
It still just feels like you could do with... Even against those teams, I don't want to see Minamino in the league up front.
Well, Minamino scores at Palace last year and starts, and we win 7-0.
I defer the honourable gentleman to my previous comment.
No, there we are. Excellent stuff indeed. Where are we? Overseas fans here. Hello. Lovely to see you, Sheriff Kaiser.
Get yourself over, Sheriff Kaiser. We'll do an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're all about. We very much want all of that stuff to work. all the way through. What else have we got here? There's some ridiculous shouts in there, bit of crankery. Obviously, it's what we expected.
It's the internet.
Yeah, it is. It's just more that, as I say, I think it's important that people enjoy it, and that this is genuinely, I'm not messing about. I feel as though people are going to talk themselves into not enjoying supporting Liverpool, and I think that's crap. I genuinely couldn't think of anything worse than people talking themselves into not supporting Liverpool.
Well,
talking themselves into not enjoying supporting Liverpool.
That's their own fault, and if anyone does that, they're stupid, because we've got a team and a manager that are there to be rejoiced over. One of the biggest like nightmares of COVID has been the fact that we all missed out on 18 months worth of Virgil van Dijk in the ground. Like that's an absolute shame, and it's the same for a lot of those players. In fact, the majority of them missing out on seeing that, because it's a short football career. Do you know what I mean? For a fan, it's your life. But there's some players, like the majority, probably you'll get 6 to 8 years out of them. Some of them, like Jordan Henderson, you'll get 10. But missing out on 18 months of some of the best players you'll ever see, don't make it any worse for yourselves by not enjoying it. Now we can actually watch them as well.
Yeah, and I think that there's a thing here, James R says we were basically saying overseas fans are cranks. We were saying the absolute fucking opposite, James. That's actually what we were saying, and let's be absolutely crystal clear on that. Saying that the way this is getting built up by some people deciding to set this one up, it is, for me, I found it just a bit sad and a bit miserable when there's never been a time, because you and I grew up and I remember what it was like going to the game, early 2000s, and the way people thought about, not just people who were from overseas, but people who were from other places in the UK. There was a fucking terrible attitude towards them, Kev. From people older than us, but also, I'm sure, some of our mates at times. There was a terrible attitude towards
it. I'll tell the truth. I was not walking the park myself, do you know what I mean? As a young kid, it is what it is, but obviously, the more you grow up and the more you meet these people and the more you become friends with these people, you realise it's not just about having a purple bin and being from L4.
Liverpool is a global club. It's the most important thing to me imaginable, that it remains a global club. It's one of the many things, and there's no end to the list of them, that we've got over the fucking Blues.
The other that I was about to say, it's ironic as well, because I've got a scarf on ours from 1974 which says supporters all over the world, and it's got the international flags from everywhere on it. And that was one of the things I used to remember. I remember saying in school when Everton had beat us every year, yeah, but like we've got fans from everywhere. I was made up with it. Don't get me wrong, there needs to be more of a push, I think, to get local kids in the ground, not necessarily local fellas who look like me and you, do you know what I mean?
Very much. We're sorted.
Ballsy middle-aged fellas, we've got loads of them, but it's young kids getting into the ground, local. There needs to be more of a push for that, but I don't think anyone. That's a mad suggestion. That's a typical thing from the internet. Someone taking what's being said there and trying to use it as such a divisive tactic. There's absolutely loads of overseas fans who've had chats with me and you.
Yeah, big saucy fella, happy with top four. Sounds like AFTV, that lad. No, this is, and again, that's a willful misread. My point is that if you are good enough to finish in the top four every single year, you're good enough to win the league. And that's my thing is you should always aim for first. And the reason why you aim for first is you'll then come top four. And I would sort of go back to the thing that you've got to point out, which is that last season, everything that could go wrong for Liverpool does go wrong, broadly speaking. The backdrop of COVID and no fans, they still come third. The reason why they still come third is because of previous investments and an unbelievable wage bill where they're getting value for money on the pitch when everything that could go wrong. That's got to continue. It's not the idea that stops. It's absolutely got to continue through there. And then we go all the way along. Where are we, indeed? Have we got anyone else with a comment? All from there. Super clubs are signing super players like Messi, Ronaldo, Sancho, Lukaku.
Ronaldo's not a super player. He was a super player. Now he's old as fuck, and he's going to stand in the way of someone like Mason Greenwood, who, by the way, is United's best player by an absolute country mile. They should have given him 400 grand a week. Yeah,
Dennis Stein says, lads, we've been here in the long term for the last decade. Well, it's been a pretty good fucking decade, Dennis. 13-14 was the most fun I've ever had supporting Liverpool. 18-19 could be the best ever Liverpool team, and in 19-20 win their first league for 30 years. That is, if it has been for the last decade, that's pretty good indeed. Could it be better? Absolutely, and it's what we continue to want and to go from there. Kieran, our top four is a minimum requirement. Anything less is a failure. Obviously, yes, very, very much so, and that is the way in which it works. Stephen Davis says lack of midfield activity might be due to a lack of honours for Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think the thing on that is he was never leaving because he's homegrown. And they're not going to. They've had so many issues with that. They're not going to be taking any chances all the way through there.
I wouldn't mind betting you'd struggle to get another club to take his wages on as well. He'd be on mega money because we signed him for 40 million quid on his injury record.
Yeah, I think he's on about 120. I remember it was published at the time around the 120, about 6 million a year. All right then. Where are we? Is there anything else there isn't? We're going to go and do football miracles now. Talking about things that happened in the very, very recent past and how they're the best days that you could ever have supporting Liverpool Football Club. Neil Atkinson, Kev Walsh, talking Reds.